Hey everybody, I'm Kyle Winjack, and today I'm going to teach you the circle of fifths in under 10 minutes, regardless of whether you have any previous music theory training. It might take you some extra practice to memorize this stuff and to get it really thoroughly ingrained, but by the end of this video, you'll understand why the circle of fifths is important, how it's used, and you'll be able to write out all 12 major scales. Alright, let's get right into it. Start the clock. So the musical alphabet is the same as the regular English alphabet, except we only use the first 7 letters. So we start at A, and then when we get to G, instead of going to H, we just start over from A again and it repeats, and so on. But today we're not actually going to start at A, we're going to start at C, because C major is sort of our home base key, because it has no sharps and no flats. And if you don't know what those are, don't worry, we'll cover that in a second. For now, all I want you to do is write out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 at the top of the page. And make sure you leave a little bit of space in between each of those because we're going to be writing in between some of them. Okay, so right underneath 1, we're going to write C. And then we're going to continue the alphabet until we hit C again. So we've got C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And that's our C major scale. But there are 12 major scales, so we want to learn how to play and write them all. Now it's called the circle of fifths because we start the next scale from the 5th note of the previous scale. So we're on C major right now, and if we count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we've got G. So G is going to be the starting note of our next scale. So we start at G, and since it's the last letter in our musical alphabet, then we go back to A, B, C, D, E, F, and G again. So this isn't quite our G major scale yet because we're going to have to change one thing, but we'll get back to that. For now, I just want you to continue this pattern all the way down the page until you get back to C. And we are going to repeat C again, because by the time we're done, it's not just going to be a regular C major scale. And that's because we're about to add sharps to these notes. So a sharp is simply to raise a note to the next available note. So if you look at a piano, most of the sharps are going to be black keys. So if we have C, then the black key to the right of C is going to be C sharp. Now, the only time a sharp can be a white note is if it's B sharp or E sharp, and that's because there's 2 white notes in a row there. Okay, so now we know we need to add some sharps to these scales to make them proper major scales, but which sharps do we add? Okay, so there's a really easy pattern here to follow. The C major scale has no sharps, and the G major scale has 1. D has 2, A has 3, E has 4, and etc. You keep adding 1 sharp. And you might be thinking, okay, great, but which notes do I make sharp and which ones do I leave natural? And luckily, that's also pretty simple to answer. There's an order of the sharps, and it goes F, C, G, D, A, E, B. And you can use the phrase, Father Charles goes down and ends battle, to remember that. But I'll leave it at the top of the page for now as well. So we know that G has 1 sharp, and F is the first in the order of the sharps. So we make that F sharp, and now we've got a G major scale. And then we just continue that all the way down. So the next one, for example, we add F sharp and C sharp, because we know that D has 2 sharps, and those are the first 2 in the order of the sharps. So go ahead and pause this video for a second, add in all your sharps, and then resume the video, and you'll see the answers. You can check your work.
Okay. Write that down.
Alright, now that's 8 major scales, but I said at the start of the video that there was 12, so we gotta find those missing ones now. And we're gonna follow a very similar process, only this time it's gonna be with the flat side of the cycle. So again, we're gonna start at C, and we're gonna format our page the same way, except this time, instead of using the 5th note as the starting note of our next scale, we're gonna use the 4th note. And that's why this is also sometimes called the cycle of fourths. So if you were to put these on a sort of wheel, then counterclockwise would be fourths and clockwise would be fifths. Counterclockwise is the flat side of the cycle and clockwise is the sharp side of the cycle. Okay, so just like we did with the fifths, we're going to continue writing down that pattern all the way until we get to C again. So go ahead and pause the video, write that down, and come back when you're finished. All right, now this time instead of adding sharps, we're gonna add flats. which is sort of the opposite. Instead of one note higher, it's one note lower. And the order of the flats is also going to be slightly different. In fact, it's going to be the same thing, but backwards. And the phrase that you can use to remember this one is, bottle's empty and down goes Charles' father. And there you go, the process is going to be the exact same, really. You're going to add one flat to F, two flats to B flat is going to end up being, and so on. And I should point out that if the starting note is flat, then the ending note should be flat as well, and that only counts as one flat. So for example, B flat has two flats in it, but when you write it out, you're writing three flats because you write B flat twice. Okay, so again, pause the video, write all of that down, and when you come back, you can check your work. So congratulations, you just learned how to write out all of the major scales. And some of you might have noticed that there are more than 12 there. And that's because of something we call enharmonics. And all that means is it's the same notes but spelled differently. So for example, C flat and B are the same note, and C flat major scale and B major scale are the same scale, only one of them is spelled using sharps and the other one is spelled using flats. So there's a little bit of overlap there. There are 15 different scales that you could write out, but a few of them are actually the same scale, so there's only 12 that actually sound different. And you can see that here on the circle of fifths. Alright, there we go. Hopefully that was under 10 minutes. I don't know, we'll see when I end up editing this. Really thoroughly understanding your major scales is a vital part to understanding music theory and becoming a better musician. So it's really important stuff. And if you want to take it to the next level and really thoroughly master this concept, there are some exercises that you can do that I'll be making another video about. When that video is done, I'll link it in the description and you can check that out. Until then, I'm Kyle Winjack, and I'll see you next time.